Maxwell Schiano. I'm a New York City-based photographer. Honestly, I don't even know how to answer that one because I feel like all the photographs matter. And I think like that's what photography means to me, is that like all these photos, even whether we think they're light or important or whatever, I think they're all important. And I think, you know, it's a way of understanding life and navigating it. And I think, you know, a lot of photography for me is this subconscious journey, which is like, you know, taking the photos and then kind of understanding afterwards why I took those photos or what like led me to take those photos. And I think that's probably a big thing for me. I think like as far as like my work as a professional photographer, I would say when I started photographing people, when I started putting myself in the realm of like taking portraits and you know, and then when I started getting photography jobs, like literally my whole mode of thinking was like, I'm just gonna say yes to everything, even though if I don't know how to do it, I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna really put myself in this space to learn as much as I can. And I think like that process really stress tested my brain and my creativity and put me in these realms to find my voice. And that's what matters to me. I think like, you know, is really just like all the photography matters. I think, you know, it doesn't matter if it's the first one or an ongoing process. It was about like when I was a filmmaker and I was just using photography as a way of keeping visual notes. And then when I started sharing those things and started getting a reaction to the photos that I was taking and seeing like the emotional reaction to people, that was a huge inspiration for me. And that kind of took photography out of my head into like, you know, a conversation with other people. And I think that's where, you know, thank God for the internet and like Instagram and stuff like that in the early days, because it really pushed a lot of us to find a community and find that encouragement. And like, you know, maybe I would have never found that if that wasn't the case, if I didn't get people to encourage me and like respond to my work and like see the mirror, you know what I mean? And that I would say that's one of the main moments that really made me think like, okay, this is more than just documenting something for myself. Like I have a story to tell, I have a perspective to share. My style is more in the vein between documentary and like filmmaking. That's how I kind of see my photography is kind of like a movie. It's very cinematic in the way that like I think in motion and with my photography. And I think like I like to document realness, but also through like an emotional lens. And I think that's where my background in filmmaking and my love for movies really comes through. And I think as far as style goes, I think it's really like hard to bake that down. It's like, you know, this is something that evolves, and I like to keep that as how I'm feeling in that current stage of my life or in that current stage of creation or what I'm documenting specifically, and how I can, you know, reflect that in the work. And I would say definitely major focus on people, emotions. I would say lighting is a really important thing for me. I like a lot of contrast and stark colors and lighting. In New York is a massive story for me. I mean, I think it's just like being able to document this city and share the beauty behind it is an honor to me. And I just really, you know, want to capture all these things so that, you know, not just myself to remember, but for everybody. I have a concern, but also like I don't have a concern, because the whole idea of photography and creativity in general is perspectives. We want to understand a perspective from someone. And I think that's like embodies the work, because we want to really enjoy, like we've seen a million great photographs, we've seen a million great films, but if it doesn't have the heart that we, you know, can connect with, then that's what's more important to us. And that's why there's films that like don't look as great quality wise. There's photographs that aren't the best quality, but they're still to the heart of what we love, you know what I mean? The stories that we want to tell and how we feel. And I think AI is going to copy, you know what I mean? AI is basically going to take what we've created and use that as a database to make something. We're not coming from that. We're coming from our database of our existence, and we're making things that are unexpected and new and different. And, you know, whether they're not as good or whatever you want to call it, like, I think like they're organic. And I think like those are the stories that are going to be important. But I think like as far as creation wise, I think, you know, we shouldn't worry about these things. That's kind of a no-brainer. We want authentic and organic stories from perspective of people. You know, I think like AI is an amalgamation of all these perspectives and emotions and media from people that have already been created. And I think like, you know, like that's from us, you know? It wouldn't be of value if it wasn't for us creating this media to give it that input. It's all about the heart and the perspective, where it's coming from and how that story's told. We see this with social media, where people want to see people are responding more to videos that are shot on iPhone, that are less professional, that are, you know, less untouched, and like, because people love the authenticity. It's like kind of a story that I have for a lot of really good photos that I really love that I've taken is I find myself like reloading my camera or something, or like, you know, this specific photo, a friend of mine was walking in a restaurant to go to the bathroom, and I was stopped in front of Max Brenner in the city, and I just was reloading my camera, and this car pulls up, and this family starts piling out of the car, and these two brothers come out of the back seat, and they turn around, and it's like almost like they were looking at me, but they were looking up because the Empire State Building was behind me, and the brother puts his arm around his other brother, and he puts his hand up and he goes, "Look, it's the Empire State Building." That photo means a lot to me because it just reminds me of my relationship with my brothers and like just the brotherly love of that moment. It just felt like this like really genuine, soft like moment. And then like with the parents and like I don't know who exactly, like if it was the godparents, like grandparents, or what in the background, but like I don't know, just really like beautiful moment to me that I caught this like really organic emotion between these two brothers and like with the family in the background. Yeah, so that photo means a lot to me and really grateful for that shot. I don't think I've ever cried after taking a photo. I think I've definitely cried like looking back at some of the photos that I've taken. And I think like a lot of those are of family members. And I think that's something that is really important to me. And like, you know, and it's funny because in the moment you almost have to bother people, you know what I mean? Like I think it's funny because like, you know, photos of my uncle that passed away, and then photos of my dog that passed away. And, you know, you realize like your lens was coming from a place of love in that time. And when you go back to it, you're like almost instantly transported to that feeling. And that, you know, still gets me to this day of those specific memories. And like, I think that's where I have started documenting my family, like a lot through holidays, through like life changes and just growing up. And that to me is something that like, really emotional side of photography for me. I think it was also like I didn't really have to capture it. I think it was like I was out taking photos of the city and basically stumbled upon one of the protests for George Floyd, and it was a deeply emotional era. And during that time, a lot of street photographers were documenting the protest, and like, you know, I think that like it was a big moral quandary for me because like I didn't want to document something for the sake of documenting it, but I also wanted to be a supporter and you know, make people know that I was on the same side of things. And like, you know, I remember photographing some of the protest, and like, you know, I shared like one or two of those photos. I understood the moral and ethical capacity of photography and how like that can affect our view and like who it's coming from and, you know, what the voice is saying. And I think, yeah, I would say like, as far as moments go, that would be something that would, you know, was hard for me to document. And I even think about today, like, you know what I mean? Like I haven't shared, you know, those photos, but like, you know, it's more so for myself and not for, you know, anyone else. 100%. I mean, I think that's the world we live in. We look to media to feel. That's our daily life. We look at media for entertainment. We look at media for news. We look at media to see our friends, to see our family. You know, that's how we convey our lives, whether that's storytelling, whether that's cinematic, whether that's, you know, pure documentation. Of course, photography hits the heart. And I think when you approach photography in this way, that it's like, it's a form of communicating with your heart through visuals, you know, that's when you get to your true self of what you're trying to say and what you're trying to share. Photography has definitely changed my heart. It's shown me, I would say growing up, I was a little more shy than I am now. And photography was a form of communication for me. It is a multitude of things. I would say the first thing is the perspective. You know, where is it coming from? Who's creating this photograph? What is their story? And then the second layer of things would be the viewer. Like, what is their emotional connection? What is their, you know, understanding of the photographer or the medium that's being photographed? So, you know, it's really about people. I think they reveal both. I mean, I think you don't have a photograph with a story without both of those perspectives. You know, you want to understand, you know, what the start of this photo came from, what the feeling was behind the camera, but also what the feeling is that has been captured. And I think like those two forms of perspective make the photograph. They really, you know, tell you about the person that's taking it and about the people that are being captured. Honestly, I regret not taking photos probably every single day. I think we first take photos with our eyes and then we take photos with our cameras. And there's a million photographs that I regret not taking, but also sometimes, you know, some of those moments are meant to be lived and not documented. And I think having those moments really also serves as like an encouragement to be more prepared for when these moments come up, and, you know, being ready to know how to capture those things. And photos that I regret taking, I think that happens like every single day. You know what I mean? I see a beautiful moment. I'm driving past in a car and I see a scene with certain people or like lighting and stuff like that. And it's like, it happens to us all. Like you know, I would have loved if we would have stopped and got a photo there or whatever. But, you know, I think it just emboldens the importance and like heart of the photos that we do get. I don't really regret per se, but I regret like from a technical perspective is like really just enjoying scene or lighting or certain people and, you know, character. And, you know, if I couldn't use a camera anymore, I don't even want to think about that. I'm not even going to think about, I mean, I would just not keep my mouth shut. You know what I mean? I would just be talking. I'm Italian, so I already talk a lot. So yeah, I guess I'd just be blabbing my mouth and telling stories, and, you know, but I don't even want to think about a world where cameras don't exist. How'd it go?
Yeah, good.
You think?
Yeah.
Hey, what up, dude?